Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's Morning Briefing.
In a shocking move, the controversial recommendations bill, which would block police from suggesting criminal indictments to the Attorney General based on their investigations, has been nixed from today's final vote. A mere 20 hours before the Knesset was set for the last and decisive read-through, this about-face comes after weeks of intense debate, opposition, and even mass protest against the legislation. That's because critics see it as an obvious attempt to protect Prime Minister Netanyahu, who is currently at the center of 2 police probes for alleged corruption. Proponents for the bill, however, say the bill would protect Israeli citizens from public fallout who are eventually found innocent in court. But now Netanyahu himself is bringing things to a standstill and asking the bill to be rewritten, specifically so that it excludes his current investigations from the law. Fellow Likud lawmaker David Amsellem, who's been spearheading this bill, is blaming what he believes are, quote, violent left-wing Knesset members for the bill's stall. An estimated 20,000 demonstrators rallied in Tel Aviv this weekend picketing against this bill, so clearly it looks like their cries have been heard. According to CIA Director Mike Pompeo, ties in the Middle East between Sunni Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and Israel are not only improving, but they're paving the way for the creation of a joint operations center to fight against the Islamic State and Iran. Speaking on Saudi Arabia, Pompeo said, quote, "We've seen them work with the Israelis to push back against terrorism throughout the Middle East, to the extent we can continue to develop those relationships and work alongside them. The Gulf states and broader Middle East will likely be more secure," end quote. Pompeo's predecessor and Defense Secretary Leon Panetta later backed his successor up, calling for a coalition with Israel, Sunni Arab states, the United States, and Turkey to be formed. But that's not all. When it comes to future stability in the Middle East, according to a recent piece in the New York Times, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman met with Palestinian Authority President Abbas in November and urged him to accept within 2 months his new initiative for Israeli-Palestinian peace. According to the report, bin Salman offered Abbas non-contiguous parts of the West Bank with limited sovereignty, no claim to East Jerusalem for a capital, very little claim, if at all, to existing Jewish settlements in Judea and Samaria, and no right of return for Palestinian Authority Arabs. If true, this report signifies a huge departure from previous attempts at an Arab-led peace initiative. But we'll have to wait and see, as an email later sent from the Saudi ambassador to the United States said his kingdom was committed to the 2002 Arab Peace Initiative based on 1967 borders, and that, quote, "to suggest otherwise is false," end quote. It's been a rough week for the Israeli defense establishment as 2 major flubs during training exercises ended up putting Israeli lives at risk. Last week, during what was supposed to be a dry run, an Israeli tank fired a live shell. Thankfully, no one was reported injured. The incident took place at the Tse'elim military base in southern Israel, where nearly 30 years ago, a similar accident claimed the lives of 5 soldiers. According to military personnel, after the shell was fired, the drill was called to a halt, the tank crew was removed from the exercise, the overseer of the drill was replaced, guidelines of the exercises were clarified, and an investigation has been launched. Then later this morning, citing a failure to meet safety criteria, a missile defense test with the Arrow 3 system was called off. In the Israeli-US joint exercise, a Sparrow target missile, supposed to be a stand-in for a real ballistic missile fired at Israel, was launched over the Mediterranean with the intent of shooting it down with the Arrow 3. Unfortunately, the Sparrow was not functioning properly, and the United States defense establishment shut down the test. The Arrow 3 missile defense system is intended to intercept ICBMs and other long-distance, high-altitude ordnance, and it's supposed to operate at greater ranges, greater heights, and greater speeds than any other present system. An investigation into why the target didn't fly as planned has begun. In other news, Missouri citizen Ford Kevin Kutz has just been identified by the FBI as the suspect behind calling in bomb threats to Jewish community centers and synagogues in the areas of Kansas City and Washington, D.C. The 25-year-old Kutz allegedly threatened the Jewish institutions and even assaulted federal agents sent to question him. The first threat began in April of this year, and then happened again in that following July. The first break in the case came when a man who identified himself as Ford Joseph Halloway on the FBI tip line told the FBI that he had masterminded the threats. Halloway then challenged the FBI to come get him, even providing an address. A trace of that call later led the FBI to Kutz's mother's house, where Kutz also lives. His mother acknowledged that Halloway is an alias her son, suffering from mental health issues, has used in the past. Upon coming to arrest Kutz in late November, Kutz then attacked the FBI with a shovel, injuring one agent in the hand. Kutz has not yet been charged with anything, but could face up to 20 years in prison just for assaulting the federal officer. The I.D.F. has now begun its 3rd joint exercises with Cyprus this year, with the intent of maintaining readiness in the region. Greece will also be taking part in this military drill, which takes part less than 1 month after the first Trilateral Defense Summit in Athens between the 3 Mediterranean nations. According to Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman, Cyprus, Greece, and Israel share common values as democratic countries and face similar security challenges. Therefore, quote, "The cooperation is intensifying every day on many levels based on the understanding that we must take our fate into our own hands," end quote. Cypriot Defense Minister Fokaidis went further at last month's summit, saying that this friendship will even end up serving the interests of Europe and the rest of the international community in general.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.